Hello students, welcome to English Literature Pathshala. This is another lecture in the series of my lectures on Chaucer. In my previous video lecture, you have seen how Chaucer's literary career is divided into three periods. I discussed three periods of Chaucer, that is French period, Italian period and English period. If you could not watch that video, please watch that video also. Then you will have your better understanding related to this lecture. In this video lecture, I am going to discuss Prologue to the Canterbury Tales, Chaucer's magnum opus. Canterbury Tales is an important work of Chaucer's English period. And as I told you earlier also that Matthew Arnold said about Chaucer that with him is born our real poetry. He is called the father of English poetry. Now, generally what I have seen that Prologue is prescribed at PG level. You study Chaucer at PG level. Canterbury Tales are not prescribed, but Prologue is prescribed in the course. So this lecture is on Prologue to the Canterbury Tales. The facts which I will give you in the lecture, they are also beneficial for various competitive examinations because the questions from Chaucer are very often asked in UGC NET examinations and also the other examinations. Now, the Canterbury Tales is a collection of 24 tales, stories, and that these stories, run to over 17,000 lines, and they are written in Middle English. It is said that they are written between 1387 and 1400, but dates are not clear. Now, this richly detailed text is Chaucer's masterpiece, and Dryden said about this text that here is God's plenty. Now the tales, most of the tales are written in verse, few of them are in prose. They are presented as a part of storytelling contest by a group of pilgrims as they travel together from London to Canterbury to visit the shrine of Saint Thomas Becket at Canterbury Cathedral. Now, Chaucer uses the tales and descriptions of its characters to paint an ironic and critical portrait of English society at the time, and especially he was critical about the church. Now, Chaucer drew from rich variety of literary sources to create the tales. But principal debt is to Boccaccio, who wrote Decameron. That is, if you talk about the source of Canterbury Tales, you will mention the name of Boccaccio's Decameron, in which 10 nobles from Florence, to escape the plague, stay in a country villa and amuse each other by narrating the tales. So Boccaccio can be an immediate influence on Chaucer. Now Chaucer's tales is one of the most widely studied examples of a particular genre called estate satire, E-S-T-A-T, estate satire. Now other example in literature are William Langland's Piers the Plowman and John Gower's Vox Clementis. These two works I have already discussed in my previous videos. Now, in the study of literature, the estate's satire is a genre in which the author describes, examines, and explains the workings of the social order and offers their criticism or humor of that system. The state's satire provides important documentation in explaining how medieval life made sense of and coped with regimented class system and all the rules that went along with it. Now, Chaucer in his Canterbury Tales introduces the aristocracy first, then follow the clergy. After that come merchants and skilled tradesmen. The workers farmers and peasants bring up the rear. Now, Chaucer sets down his tales in Middle English, the language of the common people during his time, especially from 12th century to 15th centuries. After Old English and before early modern English, Middle English served as the language of the people. Importantly, Chaucer chooses to use the common tongue instead of the French that was spoken in court or the Latin used in the church. Now, it has been suggested that the greatest contribution of the Canterbury Tales to English literature was the popularization of the English vernacular in mainstream literature as opposed to French, Italian or Latin, which was in vogue during Chaucer's time. Now, the frame story of the poem, because I have told you about the Canterbury Tales, but if I tell about prologue to the Canterbury Tales, prologue means introduction. So the introduction to the Canterbury Tales. Okay, so the frame story of the poem is set out. This is actually in about 858 lines. This prologue, and this forms the part of what we call general prologue. Now the narrator, that is Geoffrey Chaucer, is in Tabard Inn in Southwark. You please concentrate your attention and remember also these names because they are very often asked. And whenever you are going to write your answer also, you'll mention these names. So Chaucer was in the Tabard Inn, which was there in Southwark. Now he meets a variety of people there in the inn. He calls them sundry folk. If you read prologue, so the sundry folk is used there. They are actually planning to go to Canterbury to visit the shrine of Thomas Becket. Now Becket, who was a martyr and reputed to have the power of healing the sinful. That is, all the persons who were gathered at the Tabard Inn, they are going to Canterbury to visit the shrine of Thomas Becket because they have some kind of ailment and they have the belief that if they go to visit the shrine, so it will be cured. Now, it was a custom that pilgrims have to wait at some friendly inn until a sufficient company were gathered to make the journey pleasant and safe from robbers that might be encountered on the way. That was actually the trend of the Middle Ages. Now, Chaucer very happily joins the company, and that company in which we find the persons from the Oxford scholar to the drunken miller. That is, we have the variety of characters. That is why Dryden says that here is God's plenty. Chaucer also accepts the invitation. He also joins the company. He said, "Okay, I will also go along with you." Now, you see, when you read the prologue, the setting is in the month of the April. And the prologue starts by singing and the praises of that month, whose rains and warm western wind restore life and fertility to the earth and its inhabitants. So the month of the April is the most favorable, the suitable month to undertake the journey. Now you can compare the opening of the prologue with the wasteland, where T.S. Eliot says April is the cruelest month. So you see, on the one hand you find April as a pleasant month, and here you find April is the cruelest month. So as I just told you that at the Tabard Inn we have the variety of character. Chaucer is also there. Chaucer finds in front of him the variety of characters. He seeks to describe their condition, array, and social degree. Now these are the three words which he uses: condition, array, and degree. Now the pilgrims who are there at the Tabard Inn, they include knight, his son squire, then their servant yeoman, then a prioress accompanied by a second nun, monk, friar, merchant, clerk, sergeant of law, Franklin, carpenter, weaver, dyer, tapestry weaver, cook, shipman, doctor of Egypt, wife of Bath, parson, his brother a plowman, miller, municipal, a reeve, a summoner, a pardoner, and then we have a host whose name is Harry Bailey, and then the Chaucer himself. Now you see what is happening there. At the end of this section, you find out that the host of that inn, that is Harry Bailey, the name was very often asked in the examination. He proposes that the group, ride together and entertain one another with the story. He says that this journey will be quite boring if we do not do anything entertaining. So he lays out his plan. He says that each pilgrim will tell 2 stories on the way to Canterbury and 2 on the way back. You see, Chaucer says that there are 9 and 20 pilgrims, that is 29 pilgrims, including Chaucer there will be 30. So the proposal of host was that each pilgrim would narrate 2 tales on the onward journey and 2 tales while coming back. That is, each pilgrim will narrate 4 tales. If the 4 tales are to be narrated by each pilgrim, so total number of plan was of the 120 tales. Now, unfortunately, Chaucer could not complete all the tales. Only 24 tales could be completed. Now, you see, the proposal of the host was that whosoever has told the most meaningful and comforting stories will receive a free meal paid for by the rest of the pilgrims upon their return. Now, this was actually the plan, the proposal given by the host. The company agrees and makes the host its governor, judge and record keeper. They set off the next morning and draw lots to determine who will tell the first tale. Now the knight wins. As I have just told you that we have the character of knight. The knight wins and prepares to tell his tale. So knight is the first character who narrates the tale. He tells one of the best of the Canterbury Tales, the chivalric story of Palamon and Archite. So you will remember that what the name of the story which was narrated by knights is Palamon and Archite. So the stories narrated by the different characters cover a wide range, including stories of love and chivalry, of saints and legends, travels, adventure, animal fables, allegories, satire, and the courts of the common people. Chaucer is regarded as our first short storyteller as well as our first modern poet. So this was actually the plan. Now in this prologue, the poet makes us acquainted with various characters of his drama. As I have just told you, we have knight, squire, prioress and all that. This prologue, as I have told you, the meaning of prologue is introduction. So prologue is an introduction to the tellers of the tales. Those who are going to narrate the tales, Chaucer wants to give introduction about those characters. Now what we find actually during Chaucer's time, now until Chaucer's day, popular literature had been busy chiefly with gods and heroes of the golden age. It had been essentially romantic, and they never attempted men and women as the characters. Now Chaucer has humanized the literature in the sense, and that is why he also showed the path of Renaissance. Chaucer not only attempted the new realistic task, but accomplished it so well that his characters were instantly recognized as true to life. And this is actually the permanent projection of the literature. Now we have, I'll describe it later, that we have a lifelike character of Madame Eglantine, a prioress, which has been depicted by Chaucer. We have also the picture of the fat monk, the parish priest, the plowman, the poor scholar. They are very lifelike, characters. Now, Dryden made a very good statement regarding this. He said that I see all pilgrims, their humors, their features, and their very dress as distinctly as if I had supped with them at the Tabard in Southwark. So, how great a statement is this? Now, you see, you find out that in general prologue, I told you about the plan. What was the plan that they actually assembled at inn called Tabardin? There was a host called Harry Bailey, and Harry Bailey made a proposal that each pilgrim will narrate 2 tales on the onward journey, 2 tales while coming back. We have 9 and 20 pilgrims, that is 29 plus 130. If each pilgrim is going to narrate the tale, total number of tales will be 120. But the plan could not be completed by Chaucer. Only 24 tales could be narrated. So in Prologue to the Canterbury Tales, Chaucer says that let me give an introduction to those characters who are going to narrate the tales. In Prologue, we find a variety of characters, that I have told you, from aristocracy to the class of the peasants. And the description which Chaucer does is ironic, satirical and humorous. Especially Chaucer is satirical in the depiction of the church characters who are called ecclesiastical characters. So in my following video lecture, I will give you a brief description about the various characters so that you can analyze the characters also very well. Thank you very much.